growing up, I was a huge fan of David Bowie and the Beatles and Pink Floyd, and I was always intrigued by the idea that a band could be sort of something that they're not. The Wall deals with the concept of alienation. Sgt. Pepper's deals with the concept of a band being some other kind of band and playing within a personality. David Bowie toyed with the concept that he was a man from another planet. For this last album, I just thought it would be way easier to assume a character to say what I really wanted to say and to express what I really wanted to express. So I sort of struck upon the idea that we would sort of imitate ourselves, and that's sort of where the idea was born, that we would sort of be a fake version of the band. In trying to write the Glass character, I tried to put myself into shoes that I don't even necessarily feel. I tried to take it to extremes that I personally wouldn't go. I don't believe I'm some sort of prophet, but I sort of got in the shoes of the idea of what it would feel like to believe you really are possessed with something that the whole world must hear. I saw the fan participation as a critical element of making this whole idea work. If the fans hadn't become so intrigued with the story and there hadn't been so much activity on the internet, this animated series never would have happened. And in essence, this is like the ultimate interactive experience. We allowed fans to come into a part of our world that most bands would never allow access to. As much as fans have participated in the story and tried to figure out the mysteries that we laid before them, they still don't really sort of understand the flesh and bones of it. They see it as sort of a fairy tale, but it's not really a fairy tale. It really is a fable in the sense that it is about real things and real people. Behind every part of the story is an actual sort of, both success and tragedy. It's our own sort of behind the music, and I guess fittingly so, better as cartoon characters than real people. June in the story really embodies, the female essence against Glass's male energy. But Glass is sort of an androgynous figure, and in some ways, the feminine June also has a lot of male characteristics. So the lines are constantly blurred in the story, but the simplest version is that she's just sort of his girlfriend, and it all goes from there. What we're going to try to attempt to do with the animated music is to bring to full fruition the cartoon version of the band. In some ways, when the band was making the Machina album, we didn't probably do as good a job as we could have to completely fulfill the story part because we were still worried about being the Smashing Pumpkins. In this sense, there's no constraints on the musical aesthetic of what the Glass and the Machines of God music represents. So I think musically it'll be probably a little more ferocious and a little more futuristic. I'm going to bring in outside people to remix some of the Pumpkins music, bringing in some of the older songs because conceptually they do fit in the story. And we're also hoping to bring in some other artists to cover some of the Pumpkin songs, to bring a little more perspective. Because there's songs in Machina 1 and Machina 2 where I'm actually singing the female sort of versions of the songs. They're really more written from a female perspective. So I think some of the songs sung from a female perspective would actually make a lot more sense in the story. I really hope that the entire idea of Glass and the Machines of God continues to grow and change. I don't see it as a finite process, and I believe the story is still being written. I think that over time the story will actually grow in people's minds. I think it's a very hyper world right now, and it's hard for people to actually take pause and see the depth of this whole project. But I think the idea of a band using its website to bring in interactivity with the band's actual reality, not just some sort of serving thing where you put up some pictures and send them a couple records every once in a while, but where the fans actually became part of the band and the construct of the band. I think this is something that's going to become more and more a part of rock and roll, because rock and roll is always bigger than the artists anyway, and it really is about the energy of the fans, and the fans at some point are not going to be satisfied with just being able to go to a concert once every 2 years and buying some CD or downloading some tracks every time somebody feels like putting them out. I think ultimately fans are going to own the bands, not the other way around.
time.